The first time I saw him, I thought he was just another drifter. The kind who wanders into town with nothing but a name and a scar or to someone passing through, never meant to stay. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. I was at the ranch house as I always was at this time of night alone, staring at the fire crackling in the hearth, its warmth the only comfort I had left. My father had passed just a few months before, and with him, the ranch I loved was slowly dying. The creditors came knocking every other day, their demands a constant reminder of the weight I had to carry. I wasn't ready for this. I never was. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows like a warning, but the real danger wasn't out there. It was here, in the silence of the house, the same silence that echoed in my bones when I looked at the land we owned. The land I was supposed to protect was slowly losing. I was halfway through my father's ledgers when I heard the horses. The rhythmic thud of hooves against the dirt road wasn't unusual. There were always people coming through this part of Colorado, but the way they stopped abruptly, just outside the gate, made me pause at first. I thought it was one of the ranch hands. Maybe they'd come to get supplies from town or bring in the last of the cattle for the season. But then I heard the knock. It wasn't a normal knock. It was sharp, persistent, almost as if whoever was outside had no intention of waiting for an answer. I dropped the ledger, the sound of it hitting the wooden floor louder than I intended. I wiped my hands on my jeans, unsure of whether to head to the door or hide in the shadows. But then something in me snapped and I stood, walking toward the front door with as much confidence as I could muster. I opened the door, and there he was. He was tall, rugged, his clothes were covered in dirt and grime. His face a mess of cuts and bruises like he had been through hell and back. His eyes were dark, almost black, with a haunted look that made me uneasy in a way I couldn't explain. His jaw was set, his expression unreadable, but there was something about him, something that didn't belong. You, Emma Hawkins? His voice was rough, like gravel grinding underfoot, and I couldn't help but shiver at the way it cut through the quiet of the night. I nodded. I am. Who are you? His gaze flickered over my shoulder, into the dimly lit house behind me, as if assessing whether or not to step inside. He didn't. Instead, his hand, bruised and shaking, rested against the doorframe. I need help, he said, voice low, eyes scanning the horizon as though expecting someone or something to come after him. My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't a fool. There was something off about him, something dangerous, but I wasn't about to turn him away, not when he looked like he might collapse right there on my porch. You've come to the wrong place, I said, though I didn't know if I meant it. The words felt hollow, meaningless. I know, he replied. His voice was tinged with a bitterness I didn't understand. But I'm out of options. I hesitated, the words on the tip of my tongue, but then I stepped aside. Come in. The door creaked as he entered, and for the briefest moment, I regretted my decision. Name's Lucas Donovan, he said as he closed the door behind him. But he didn't seem to be paying much attention to me. His eyes were always looking over his shoulder, scanning the empty landscape outside the window, then the walls, then the door. Do you have any food? Or water? Maybe a place to rest? I nodded, leading him toward the kitchen where the fire still burned low. Sit, I said, motioning to the old wooden chair. I'll get you something as I turned away. I could feel his eyes on me, but I didn't dare look back. The air between us felt thick, like there was something unsaid, something lurking beneath the surface. It wasn't just the way he carried himself, though that was enough to make any sane person cautious. It was his presence, the way it consumed the room. When I handed him a cup of water, our fingers brushed, and I felt a tan electric jolt that I didn't expect, and certainly didn't welcome. He noticed it too, his eyes locking onto mine for a brief moment before he broke the connection, taking the cup without a word. Thank you, he said softly. I didn't trust him. I didn't know him. But something inside me told me that this wasn't just another drifter passing through. There was something deeper here, and as much as I didn't want to admit it, I felt drawn to him. I had no idea then that his arrival would set everything in motion. The ranch, my future, my heart, and the very danger I thought I could avoid. Emma's burdened eyes should have turned him away. That's what I kept telling myself. Every step I took in the days that followed, every word we exchanged. I should have sent him off the moment he asked for help, but I didn't tell. Instead, I found myself making him breakfast the next morning, silently watching as he ate with the hunger of a man who hadn't had a decent meal in weeks. His eyes were heavy, as though sleep had evaded him for too long, but he didn't complain. Not once. The longer he stayed, the more I found myself wondering why. Why had he come to me, of all people? What was it that made him so different from every other man who passed through here looking for work? And the biggest question of all, why was I so desperate to keep him here? The ranch was on the verge of collapse, and I was alone in it, fighting to hold on to something my father had built with his own blood and sweat. But no matter how hard I worked, I couldn't escape the looming threat of losing it all. My family's legacy, the land that had been ours for generations, was slowly slipping away from my grasp. And yet when Lucas Donovan showed up, I found myself distracted from it all. I couldn't get him out of my mind. His rough hands, his haunted eyes, the quiet storm that followed him everywhere he went, it all started to wear on me. I had no idea what his story was, but I could tell it wasn't a good one. "Emma," he said one evening, as we worked side by side on the fence. His voice was steady, but there was something about it that sent a chill down my spine. "I need to know what you're really fighting for." I stopped what I was doing, turning to face him. He was too close, too intense. I didn't like the way he was looking at me, like he could see right through me. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice betraying me. Cracking just slightly. "It means," he said, his gaze never leaving mine, "that I'm not the only one with something to lose here." His words were a weight I couldn't ignore. For the first time since he'd come, I wondered if I'd made a mistake letting him in. But something about him, his presence, had settled under my skin. I couldn't tell if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I couldn't deny it. I should have known then. I should have known that helping him would change everything. Lucas's past. 2 days later, things took a turn I wasn't prepared for. The knock on the door came just as the sun began to dip behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the ranch. It was a man I didn't recognize. He looked too rough for anyone trying to make peace. His eyes scanned the house quickly, and when they landed on Lucas, I could feel the tension snap in the air. "Lucas Donovan," the man growled, his voice low and threatening. "You've got some explaining to do." Lucas didn't flinch, but I could see the way his jaw tightened. He stood slowly, his eyes locked on the stranger. And for a moment, the world seemed to freeze around us. "Leave," Lucas said, his voice cold, the words cutting through the tension like a blade. The stranger smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the kind that sent a shiver straight through my spine. "I don't think so," he said, taking a step forward. "Not until I've got what I came for." I didn't know what was going on, but I knew one thing. I had to get Lucas out of there. But it was too late. The preacher didn't wait for an invitation. His boots crunched over the dry earth like the beat of a drum, a steady reminder that something was amiss. The sun had just begun to dip behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the ranch when he appeared, his silhouette dark against the fading light. I'd never seen him before, but there was something about him, a presence, a weight that made the hairs on the back of my neck rise. He didn't say a word at first. He simply stood by the gate, looking out at the ranch, as if it was all too familiar to him. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, the words laced with an urgency that felt too sharp for a man of God. "Emma Hawkins?" he asked, his eyes scanning the horizon like a man who expected something to jump out at him from the shadows. I took a cautious step toward him, sure of what he wanted or why he was here. My hand instinctively went to the gun holstered at my side, though I didn't expect trouble. "Not yet, I am," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want?" He didn't waste time with pleasantries. His eyes settled on me, and I saw the concern in them, a kind of knowing that I couldn't understand. "I'm here to warn you, miss." "Warn me?" I raised an eyebrow. "Of what?" "The man you're sheltering," he said, his gaze hardening. "Lucas Donovan. He's not the man you think he is." I felt a chill crawl down my spine. The wind picked up, sending dust spiraling around us in the fading light. I forced myself to stand still, to listen, but the preacher's words struck like a blow to the chest. "What do you mean?" The preacher looked over his shoulder, as if searching for something or someone in the distance. "He's not just a cowboy, miss. He's a fugitive. A former lawman with a past that'll come for him and for you, if you're not careful." I took a step back, feeling a cold sweat break out across my skin. "You're wrong," I said, my voice shaky now. "Lucas isn't like that. He's just here to help." The preacher didn't flinch. His eyes remained steady, and his voice dropped to a near whisper. "He's running from men who'll stop at nothing to make him pay for his sins, and you're right in the middle of it." I shook my head, trying to block out his words, but they kept coming, sinking into the ground beneath me, rooting themselves in my mind. "I don't believe you," I muttered, more to myself than to him. "You will." "Sooner or later," he replied, turning to leave. "But I've done what I came for. Be careful, Miss Hawkins." Lucas Donovan's past is darker than the night. Before I could respond, he was gone, disappearing into the twilight like a shadow that never really belonged. The silence that followed was deafening. The wind howled through the empty fields, carrying with it the weight of the preacher's words. I stood there for a long time, my mind racing. Could it be true? Was Lucas really the man the preacher said he was? Or had he come here to escape something, someone that was hunting him down? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing. Whatever was coming, I couldn't turn away from it. I had made my choice the moment I let him into my life. The standoff the next morning, the tension in the air was palpable. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something big. Lucas had been quiet all night, and even now, as we worked side by side on the fence, there was an unspoken distance between us. I couldn't help but wonder if he had heard the preacher's warning. 2. We were working near the southern edge of the property when the first signs of trouble arrived. A cloud of dust appeared on the horizon, carried by a group of riders. They were coming fast, the sound of hooves thundering through the dry earth like an omen. Lucas stiffened beside me, his eyes narrowing. "Get inside, Emma," he said, his voice hard and final. But I didn't move. I couldn't. I needed to know what was happening. I needed to understand. The riders grew closer, their figures taking shape as they crossed the ridge. There were 5 of them, all men, all armed. They weren't friendly. I could see it in their faces, in the way they sat tall in their saddles, as though they were on a mission. One they didn't intend to fail. The leader of the group, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, rode forward, his gaze fixed firmly on Lucas. I could feel the tension between them, thick and heavy. As if they had a history I wasn't privy to. "Lucas Donovan," the man said, his voice a growl. "You've been a hard man to track down, but I guess your luck's run out." Lucas didn't respond immediately. He just stood there, his hand resting on the gun at his side, his eyes cold. "I've got nothing for you," he said, his voice flat. "Go back where you came from." The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Not this time. We've been looking for you for a long time, Donovan, and now you're going to pay for what you did." I didn't understand. What was he talking about? What had Lucas done that was so terrible? And why was I the one standing in the middle of it all? Before I could ask, the first shot rang out, breaking the silence like a thunderclap. The gunfire was deafening, and I instinctively ducked, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear the sound of horses galloping and the distant shouts of the men. But my focus was on Lucas. He was already moving, his gun drawn, his body fluid and controlled. The man with the scar was on the ground, his eyes wide with shock. Lucas didn't flinch. He didn't hesitate. He just did what he had to do to survive. The standoff lasted only a few minutes, but it felt like hours. By the time the dust settled, the riders had retreated, leaving behind a scene of destruction and confusion. The man with the scar was dead, but the others had escaped, riding into the distance with nothing but vengeance in their eyes. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how to feel, but I knew one thing for sure. Lucas had just proven the preacher's warning true. He wasn't just a cowboy. He was a man with a past, one that had followed him here, to the very ranch I was trying to protect. Darkness at noon that afternoon.
Emma, I am so
The
sorry.
skies were clouded, heavy with the kind of silence that came before a storm. I couldn't shake the feeling that something more was coming, something darker, as I was working inside the house. My thoughts scattered. I heard the sound of horses approaching once more. This time, I didn't need to look outside to know what was happening. Lucas's past was closing in on him. There was nothing we could do to stop it. I rushed to the door, my heart racing, and found Lucas standing in the yard, his back to me. His posture was tense, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Lucas," I called, my voice shaking. "What's going on?" He turned slowly, his face as hard as stone. "It's time," he said, his voice rough. "They're coming for me, and they won't stop until they've got what they want." I didn't understand. I wanted to scream at him, to ask him what he had gotten me into, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I stepped forward, my feet moving on their own. "You don't have to do this," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Lucas's eyes softened for a moment, and for the first time, I saw the man behind the mask, the man who was just as scared as I was. "I don't have a choice," he said, "and neither do you." And then, just as the light faded and the storm clouds rolled in, I knew that whatever came next, we would face it together. But the question was, would we survive it?
We can do this. Together. Emma, I am so sorry. I broke my promise.
No, Lucas! Tell me this isn't true.